You're in the VIP section of Black Women in Radio, the podcast, a decade of the new woman. I'm your host, Felicia Love, along with our special guest.
She used to actually breastfeed
while having sex.
That's
multitasking.
I'm trying to hold back the tears and be positive.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, if you can't find a heartbeat, that's not good.
I grew a beard when I was pregnant with both my daughters. Like Father Christmas.
I'm too old to have shit sex.
My children being taught the best of the West, but where's the rest?
I asked Marvin to marry me.
Can we just give her a round?
Hey, I'm Karina. I'm Enty McKay.
I'm Nanadra Butcher.
I am Nina Harrison.
I'm Natalie Duval.
And we're
Dope Black Mums.
I've got a lot of mouth. so yeah, as we Brits would say, I've got a lot of mouth. I'm quite mouthy. So I call stuff out quite a lot. So I think people, now's the time. Everyone's like, she just says it how it is. Get her on. I'm like, okay, cool.
Oh, great. So people are calling you now to find out your opinion on the state of our world, and in your case, the UK.
Yes. So I did a panel talk a few weeks ago with the Female Quotient, which is US based, and we were talking about microaggressions in the workplace. And it was just really interesting to see that actually what happens here is exactly what happens in the US as well. Just it manifests itself a little bit differently, or you might have different terminology that you use to describe things, but essentially it's exactly the same. So yeah, it's been really busy, and like my day-to-day job is within the sports industry, and in the UK, sports is, especially football, which you guys call soccer, is such a white male dominated industry in terms of the business side of it behind the scenes. Yes. So I've been really vocal in kind of addressing that and calling out the fact that we need equality, and in all forms, gender and race. So yeah,
absolutely. I am a avid soccer fan. I love soccer. Now I can't tell you the game, but I love watching it. Does that count?
Yeah, it does. Of course, it was. Girl, you don't need to know what's going on. You just have to enjoy watching it. It's fine.
Exactly. I love soccer. But when you were talking about that, I was thinking about, the diversity in terms of players even is something to pay attention to, because there are a lot of players of African descent and brown who are extraordinarily talented, and they're not being seen. So do you want to speak to that at all?
So we have, so here I would probably say, I reckon probably maybe 70% of the players here are African or Caribbean backgrounds, or they're Black. And what's interesting is we have a real problem here in that the way that the media report on a white player to how they report on a Black player, you can see the differences and kind of the subtle racism, even just, the way that they use to describe the players, like Black players. They'll be like, oh, he has pace and power. And it's like, okay, is there nothing else about him other than he's fast? Like, he doesn't have any technical skills. He doesn't have any other skills other than he has pace and power. Yeah. And, it's just typical that they see Black men in sports as being fast, or, that's how that's all they kind of use to describe them. And when it comes to writing about them, about things that they may be doing in their private lives, like if they buy their mum a house, if it's a white player, it's like, this is amazing that he's buying his mum a house. And if it's a Black player, it's like he's wasting his money. The boy from the council estate, which is like social housing, is, they have a real issue with Black players earning a lot of money and spending that money, essentially. Yes. But it's really weird to me. But yeah, we I speak about that quite a bit, and the fact that actually, if the people writing these news articles were diverse, they wouldn't be writing articles like that.
Absolutely. That is
Yeah.
so true. And we're talking about, the need to dismantle systematic or systemic, I should say, racism. But we really need to also pay attention to how things are reported. So I believe even in the newsroom, just as you mentioned, the way we approach stories and humanize or dehumanize people really needs to be looked at. And I know for sure that there's a good old boy mentality when it comes to media, because look at you and I mean, I don't know about you in the UK, but it is difficult often for a Black female to get the respect and the opportunities in media that we so deserve.
Yeah, and I think what we've been seeing is that, we're tired. We're tired of not getting gigs in mainstream media. So with the rise of social media and online and digital platforms, it's like, just like you, Felicia, it's like, well, you know what, if you don't want me, that's fine. I'm going to create something myself, because there's so many different digital platforms that you can put your own content out on. And I think newsrooms and media outlets, like the massive mainstream media outlets, really need to take note of that, because there is a lot of talent or a lot of people that are so talented that are showing their talents off by producing, writing, and making their own content. And I think it's brilliant. I think it's absolutely brilliant.
It really is. And I get that, a lot of people look at the numbers, but they really need to also look at up and coming, because you may not have the social media following, but absolutely have the substance that it would take to launch a program and sustain one. So that needs to be looked at as well. But it will take you and I and our group to make that path. I absolutely believe that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I think what a lot of broadcasters miss out on is looking at the numbers. And by looking at the numbers, you're actually probably missing out on a whole demographic and a whole audience, because what you generally find is the people with the numbers are the ones that are been in the industry for years and years and years and years. And actually what you want is some fresh talent. And if you bring in some fresh talent, funny or talented new talent, actually you're going to get a whole new audience starting to tune into your content. And I think a lot of broadcasters need to wake up to that, definitely.
Absolutely. I am so excited to have an opportunity to meet you.
Thank you. It's a shame the rest of the girls couldn't be here, but it's so difficult to get all 5 of us together. So I'm here holding it down.
I love it. And
holding it down.
And I appreciate you doing so. And trust me, I know what it's like to try to get 5 different schedules and lifestyles together in one place. It's next to impossible. But it's Karina White, correct?
Yes.
And you spoke to racism in the workplace, and I really wanted to talk about that as well. But I also want to celebrate you as part of the Dope Black Mums that is a podcast. So I was just flipping through social media and ran across your podcast, and I was just so thrilled of a few things. One, the candidacy. You guys are just, telling it like it is. And the fact that there was a platform for moms to really talk about how you're feeling, how you're navigating your day-to-day life. And it's not all cherry blossoms.
Yeah.
It's work.
Yeah, it's work. And I think what I absolutely love about the podcast is it's not like your traditional mummy podcast.
Yes.
We don't talk about our kids like 24/7 or for an hour each episode. That's not us. We talk about things from the perspective, like we talk about womanhood from the perspective and from the lens of being mums. And having this platform, we always said that we wanted to improve outcomes and improve experiences for Black mothers. And so, we talk about any and anything, as you said, very candidly. We've spoken about sex after childbirth. And I think on that episode, I was like, look, I'm too old to be having shit sex. Spoke about that Allegedly, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, I know, you know, Felicia.
Yes.
We're too old for that. Yeah. So we spoke about that, but then, we have some really funny episodes, but then we also have, quite serious episodes. We've spoken about baby loss. We've had mums on talk about their experiences of losing their babies. We've spoken about the education system here in the UK and how it discriminates Black boys and how they're expelled from mainstream education and put into PRUs, PRUs are special schools. If you've been expelled from mainstream school, they're like I don't even know how to describe them, but they are, once you end up in a PRU, there's no kind of uphill from that. It's statistically shows to be downhill, and statistically here, it's the easy answer for the education system to just put Black boys into that system. So, we've spoken about that. We've spoken about domestic violence. We've spoken about how we felt around George Floyd and, Black Lives Matter and how we'd been feeling. So yeah, we have like fun podcasts where, we're laughing for an hour. And then we also have quite serious podcasts that address issues within the Black community, which we felt that given the platform that we have, it's important to address those and give people the opportunity to come and tell their stories.
Well, I tell you, that is what caught my eye, because I really walked away with a sense of feeling like I had girlfriends. And that is a really good thing. That's a really good thing. That's what you want the listener to feel, and I said, I've got to reach out to them. I have got to reach out to them and ask them to become a part of the Black Women in Radio movement. And that's really what we are all about. And that is pulling Black women out of the shadows of the conversation when it comes to media and radio. And so I really wanted to invite you. We just opened up the Black Women in Radio International movement. So we now have,
I'm part of that now. Yay!
Yes, and you're part of that. And I'm so glad you would celebrate that with us, because it is a huge deal. And just like we said before, it's going to take all of us to create a pathway and show media how it's done. And first and foremost, show them that we have talent and the wherewithal to have large audiences and sustain them. So the Black Women in Radio platform was created in 2017. And just this month, we opened up Black Women in Radio International. So my plan is to bring us all together in one big melting pot, and that we use our resources and even conversations like this, Karina, talking about the school to prison pipeline is happening here in America as well. And it is a straight path to jail, from school to jail. That's exactly what it is. And I don't think that we recognize, although we have world news, I don't think that we really recognize that the same kinds of things are going on abroad. And it's not until we have conversations, intimate conversations between, like you and I, with people listening on. I don't know about you, but I'm like, I almost jumped out of my skin when I heard you describe, the school to prison pipeline, like here in the US. It is exactly the same. And we've got to make some noise. So I'm with you.
Yes, I think it's like you said, you never really realize that there's so many parallels and so many issues that are so similar, and again just manifests itself in different ways, but essentially when you get down to the crux of it, it's exactly the same issues across the two continents. So yeah.
And here I'm scratching my head, because I'm like, okay, so how does it manifest its way from one country to another and throughout? How does that work? Where are the decisions being made? Where are the loopholes? I know now our eyes are wide open with Mr. Floyd, but it did raise consciousness across the world that this is something that needs to not only be addressed, but it needs to be plucked out and healed.
Yeah. And I feel like we are in a movement at the moment. I don't know what way it's going to go, or where we're going to end up or what it looks like. But I do hope that his death and the thousands and hundreds of other people like him, that their deaths aren't in vain and that it doesn't mean anything, because it does. And I would hope that some substantial change, positive change, can come out of what's happened.
Oh, Karina, please, I pray that as well, because I cannot imagine, and we've lost so many hundreds of thousands of lives the same way. We're just paying attention to it now. And it's interesting. Do you think that COVID the pandemic, global pandemic, had a hand in this? Because it slowed us down enough so that we're not saying, oh, well, that happened to them, or that was that city, or, you know, now we really absorbed the shock.
I think it definitely amplified it. But, you know, we marched for George Floyd here in the UK.
Oh, and that gives me chills.
Yep, and I'm trying to even get emotional because every time I think about it and I think about kind of the meaning behind it, it really does make me emotional. But we marched for George Floyd, and we marched in 2016 for there was
Trayvon.
It was Trayvon and someone else. We marched here as well. And I think what's interesting is a lot of people in the US don't know that there's a whole wave of people in the UK that are supporting them across the water, but also because our police here, they don't carry guns as routine. We have specialist firearms officers, but the routine police officers don't carry firearms here. So the problem that we have over here is stop and search, in that the police will just stop and search you, and they have to have reasonable grounds to stop and search you. And there's procedures that they have to follow in order to do that. And what we're finding now, even more so, is people are filming these stop and searches. There was an incident over the weekend with a Team GB athlete. So this is a Black woman who runs and represents Great Britain, and her partner, who also represents, I think he represents Portugal, because his family is from Portugal, but he's Black also. And they were stopped outside their home, pulling up outside their home in an affluent area of London, and the police officer had his truncheon up, ready to break the car window, and was screaming at him to get out the car, and he was filming it. She was filming it in the back also, and they had their 3-month-old baby in the back of the car. So they dragged him out. They were trying to drag her out and handcuffing her, and they were filming all of this. Mm-hmm. If that evidence was not there, that video evidence was not there, they would have told a complete different story, because the statement that the police put out straight away then later contradict itself, and then they were forced to have to apologize to her for the distress that they caused her. And because obviously she was so high profile, you know, it had to be addressed. But what we're seeing is a rise in these stop and search cases, and where young Black men are being targeted, and we are stopping you on suspicion of drugs. They don't have to have evidence that they think you may have drugs, or they just have to say, we have a suspicion, and that is reasonable grounds to search you. Right. The searches are they're embarrassing, they are aggressive, they're intimidating. The language that is being used is unnecessary. And, you know, although we see these incidents in the US happening and where it's ending in loss of life, the one thing we don't have here is that our police here don't have guns. So they're not ending in death. But what they're ending in is men walking away and feeling angry.
Yes.
Angry against the system, angry against what these police officers represent, angry against people that wear the police uniform. And it's really destroying community relations.
Absolutely.
So when I say, you know, we have similar things that happen, but they just manifest themselves in different ways, that's what I mean. We are being oppressed here. We are being discriminated against here. We have men serving sentences in jail for crimes that they may not necessarily have committed, or crimes that they did commit, but they're serving a longer sentence than that of their white counterparts.
Right.
And what I think is with the whole pandemic is that people have got time now to show up.
Yes.
People have got time to galvanize, to organize themselves, to think of how can we change this. And also people are fed up. They've had enough. When you keep lighting a pot and it's boiling and it's boiling and it's boiling, at some point, Felicia, it's going to boil over.
Yes.
And everyone's reached their boiling point. We're boiling over and we are tired.
Absolutely.
We don't care what happens anymore. It's like, nope, we're gonna speak out against this. We're gonna march for this. We're gonna march for that. We're gonna, use our voices. We're gonna really start holding organizations to account. And yeah, so I definitely think the pandemic has amplified it. People, they've got time on their hands. They're at home. They're not doing anything. They're in lockdown. So yeah, they've got time.
Absolutely. And I think that this was needed. God knew, that this is what was needed to slow us down so that because a lot of us have just been numb to what has happened. And it's like, as long as my immediate circle is okay, family and the work and I'm able to sustain my home, we'll just keep pushing along. But we are boiling over, and some of us didn't even realize how traumatic, this was in our immediate lives, because I don't know about you, but it forced me to start digging in more history and finding out that half of this I didn't learn in school, but I'm relearning my history and just more curious about different characters in history. And it has really, I don't know about you, but Netflix has a Black Lives Matter segment now. And I asked about this a couple of weeks ago. I was like, was this there? Did I miss something? It wasn't there.
It wasn't there.
It wasn't there.
They had the strong Black lead category, but yeah, they've definitely added Black Lives Matter. I think a lot of the digital platforms have, so Netflix, iTunes, Spotify, they've all added kind of this Black Lives Matter category. And I'm like, this is brilliant, but why was it not there before?
Why wasn't it there before?
Yeah.
Exactly. What kind of change do you think you and I could make?
In just in general?
Just in the change of our world, because we're in the same position. The same things are happening to both countries and countries around the world. But what is it that little old you and little old me can do to make a change?
Felicia, I've always been really outspoken on diversity, equality, and social justice and social change. And I think me personally, so I sit on the board of an organization called the Black Collective of Media in Sport. And we work with broadcasters and print newspapers and radio to ensure that they are being diverse. And, we've worked with them for about 10 years now. We've existed for just over 10 years and nothing really has changed. So when this all happened, we sent a letter to all of them, basically saying, we're frustrated. It's time for you to pull up. It's been 10 years. Nothing's changing. So what's good? Right. So, we gave them 7 very clear points of things that we wanted to change. And that was very specific to sports media. I know that my friends that work in the music industry, they've done something similar here and in the States, where they have also written letters to chairmen of record labels, to music organizations, with very specific points about what needs to change. And I think what I specifically can do is try and affect change in the respective environments and industries that I have access to. So I have access to sports. I'm already trying to address inequality in the sports media. Within Dope Black Mums as a platform, we are calling out and we are holding organizations to account. So we are about to launch a partnership with the leading baby loss charity here in the UK, because we noted that if we're saying that we are trying to improve outcomes for Black women in the UK, similar to in the US, Black mothers are 5 times more likely to die during childbirth than any other ethnicity. We are also more likely to lose our babies or to have premature births. So why is it that an organization that is meant to be supporting mothers that have lost their babies or families that have lost their babies has completely erased the voice of the Black mother? So where are the Black mothers who are experiencing baby loss being supported? How are they being supported? And where are they going for support if the charity who is meant to be supporting them doesn't even have anyone that looks or sounds or understands the cultural differences in how Black people process grief?
Absolutely.
So, you know, we have a platform. Yeah, we have a platform. We are holding them to account. So we are now working with them and saying, look, you know you've got a problem. We know you've got a problem. How can we work collaboratively and in partnership to ensure that this changes and improves going forward? So they're one. I'm definitely, there's brands on my radar, Felicia, that I just haven't got to yet.
I love it.
They think that they've got away with it. They haven't. I just haven't. I just haven't. They're just number 12 on the list, and I haven't got to number 12 yet. So don't worry, I'm going to get to them soon. But I think, I think it's just about trying to affect change in areas and environments that you are in, and it doesn't have to be on a major scale. You know, if anyone is listening and they're in the supermarket and they see something happening, use your voice and speak out and say something and try and, you know, hold people to account. And if there's any non-Black women listening, be an ally. It's not difficult. Be an ally. Understand and recognize your privilege and use it to help other people and to improve outcomes for other people. Because even, you know, one of my friends, she said she's mixed heritage, but she's very, very fair. So if you look at her, she looks white. Mm-hmm. And she says, you know, I recognize this privilege and I recognize that people see me and they see me as white. So she said, you know what? I'm going to call out stuff every time I see it. And I need to, because I have a privileged position that people don't necessarily look at me and see me as Black. Although I feel I'm Black, if you look at me, you wouldn't think I am. So I'm in a privileged position to, you know, be an ally or to call things out and stuff. So it doesn't have to be on a grand, major scale. It just has to be doing your part and joining the fight with the hundreds and thousands of other women globally that are doing little things in their industries, in their towns, in their areas, in their workplaces to try and affect and have a fairer society.
Absolutely. And there's so much to do. So it's not that you have to start in any one particular area. Just start, you know, just start. We just mentioned the school systems. That's something else that needs, you know, grand attention, because this is the promise of our future, and how we are conditioning them now to believe that they're less than and not worthy is a very dangerous thing. Very dangerous thing. I love the way you have absorbed this cause and positioned yourself in a way to promote change. Absolutely huge. No one has the luxury of turning a blind eye. No one does. Yeah, no one does.
And I think we have a platform, so we wouldn't be doing ourselves justice, or the people that support or listen to us, if we're not trying to use our platform to affect change in some way, shape or form.
Absolutely. Well, I know Black Women in Radio has done some similar things to you. And this program, I was hoping to become a part of the Black Women in Radio International piece, but it's also now, now that we're having this conversation, absolutely a portion of the Community Matters segment that we do. So that's how we try to promote change. We've talked to Michael Julian Bond here in Atlanta about social justice, and his father was in the civil rights movement, and now he's serving in Atlanta in as a councilman. So we're trying to figure out how we can get people mobilized where they are. And so you and I resonate absolutely, and I love that. And let me just say, if there's any collaboration that you think that would be a good fit for us, let me know. Let me know, because we are on the same page.
Yeah, I will, definitely. Don't worry. You'll be like, oh, Karina, not again. Another collaboration. I'm like, Felicia, girl, you said.
I did, and you can hold me to it, because that's the whole point of Black Women in Radio. And it's funny, because when we first started, it was like, oh, it's a little kumbaya movement of Black women. Oh, no. Oh, no. We don't need any more sororities. We need to do some business, We need to make some noise. And making noise is exactly what we do once we raise our voices, once we make our needs known and our experiences known, which is one reason why I do the podcast, so that a person that's in Tennessee now feel they absolutely resonate with what's going on with you in the UK. You know what I'm saying? So this is great. So okay, so back to your podcast. You have how many women? Is it 5?
There's 5 of us that front the podcast and kind of run the movement, but we have 2 WhatsApp groups. In each of the WhatsApp groups, or across the 2 WhatsApp groups, I think there's about 360 mums across the 2 WhatsApp groups. Then we have a Facebook page, and then we have the Instagram, the Twitter, the Facebook group and the WhatsApp groups are digital safe spaces. So you have to be a Black mother or be caring for a child as a Black woman to be in either of those spaces. And that is because, we see parenting forums here in the UK, and they don't say that they're for white, they don't say they're exclusively for white mums, but they're for white mums. They, when you look at the content that's on, and the advertisers that advertise on there, it's for white mums. So we really wanted to create these safe spaces where Black mums could come and bring their whole selves, and don't care about being judged, don't care about, what people may think, but bringing their whole selves, any problems that they might have, to, seek advice from other mums, to be supported, to laugh, to cry. And, the sisterhood that's being created in these groups is absolutely amazing. Mums have found friends within the groups. They've been out for brunch, like we do brunches, but then they've gone and met their friends from the group at brunches and gone to brunch, or gone to day parties, or to the cinema. And so it's just really amazing to see the sisterhood that's being created from these groups. And what we're now seeing is, especially on Facebook, we're seeing a lot more mums join from the States, from Africa, from the Caribbean, that just want to be a part of these safe spaces and want to be a part of this movement and community of, Black mothers globally. So yeah, it's been really overwhelming, and the support that we've had from people has been amazing. But yeah, so there's 5 of us that's kind of like the core 5 that do the podcast, but then we have a whole tribe of mamas behind us.
I love that, a whole tribe of mamas. Boy, I tell you what, we can rule the world.
Yeah,
mama bears, and they're a thing.
Yes.
I it. I love it. And it's so exciting to be worldwide, isn't it?
It is, like, even doing this with you, it's like, this is crazy, because it's like, sometimes I'm like, I can't believe that we have people listening or that know about us that's like overseas. Like, I have family in America and stuff, so it's so, like, I know they listen to it, but it's like, your family, you kind of have to listen to it. So to know that there's, you know, people who aren't family in the traditional sense, listening into the podcast, it's brilliant. And to know that we're, you know, reaching people in all corners of the world is amazing.
Well, I cannot wait to share you and the rest of the mums with Black Women in Radio platform. This is our first interview, but it will be one of many, I'm sure. But just the wonderful opportunity to be able to share what you're doing with what we're doing, it just so merges. It feels so good. And I'm willing to bet you're going to have more people listening as well, because I know that now I'm an empty nester, but you know, there have been many of times where I wanted to just hear other moms and be able to understand that I'm not the only one that's feeling whatever it is that I'm feeling. And that makes a world of difference when you can hear someone else say, oh yeah, I've done that. Because when you're feeling like a loner, I mean, you can go into depression in a heartbeat. It's like, why did I get that number?
That's what it's about. You know, we want to show motherhoods from all spectrums. So even, you know, women who may not necessarily want to be mums, or women who have become, like one of my friends, she is in the mums group, and that's because her own mother passed away earlier this year, and her mum was carer for her cousin because his mum died last year. And so his mum died last year, her aunt died last year, her mum became the carer of her cousin, then her mum passed. And so now she is legal guardian for her cousin. And so she's not a mum in the traditional sense, but actually she's caring for a teenager, and we should be supporting her. She may not have given birth herself, but she's still a mum. She's still carrying out those motherly duties. So come on in. You've got a whole tribe of mums who are mums supporting you in this journey that you've just picked up you've picked up a teenager. You haven't gone through the baby, the toddler, the preteen. You've literally just got a teenager. So, you know, I don't know how she does it, Felicia, because my daughter is on preteen mode at the moment, and I'm like, who wants to take her? Like, who wants to take her? Because I'm done. But you know, it's really important to showcase motherhood in all aspects. In that, you know, you don't have to have given birth to be a mum. You know, we want to support mums that may be in same-sex relationships. We want to support mums that, you know, maybe in interracial relationships, Black mums that might be in interracial relationships. We want to support mums that may have been on the cusp of motherhood and then lost it and then haven't quite reached there yet. We want to support mums who are actively trying to become mums. You know, we want people to know that motherhood isn't just you have your kids, you have your partner, and you live happily ever after.
Oh, honey, is that not the story?
You know, everyone thinks it is, and I'm like, no, you can be a single mum and not, you know, you can be a single mum and be a high flyer. You don't have to. Not everyone fits into that stereotype of single mums. Exactly. And even if you do, that's okay, because we're still here to support you, you know, like we want to show the different amazing variations of being a mum.
And I love the fact that you guys also showcase your individuality. You talk about what it's like to be a mom, but you also talk about yourselves, you know, your careers, your love life, your whatever, your desire to travel and not being able to. So all of that's so important, because when we as nurturers start to just zone in on the child, we forget about ourselves and or feel guilty for wanting to go back to work or wanting to have a different experience. So I love this. I love it. It's so needed. And I hope that it's in every city and state across the world, because it's absolutely a safety net, a network that is needed.
Definitely.
I love it. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's important. I mean, for me personally and Natalie, like, we are probably me actually. I probably say I'm like the party mum that hardly knows what's going on, that's most likely to be drying school uniform in the car on the way to school on a Monday.
Love it.
I only washed it on like that morning because, I've been not doing anything for the whole weekend or doing my motherly responsibilities, and that's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah, it's okay to be sick and tired of your kids. Like Natalie and I have spoken about the fact that we are fed up of our kids. We didn't ask to be around them 24 hours a day. We, when we had kids, we didn't expect that we would be in a pandemic and we would have to sit with our kids 24 hours a day and be a cook and be a cleaner and be a homeschool teacher. I didn't sign up for that, Felicia.
Girl, so,
I'm like, it's okay to say you're fed up of your kids. It's normal. And I think the more we normalize things instead of trying to act like everything's okay, we'll probably have happier mums. Like, it's fine to it doesn't mean I don't love my kids anymore. It just means they're actually quite annoying being around them 24 hours a day in lockdown. And that's probably why you drink every evening, But it's about normalizing things and making mums know that actually everything that you are feeling is normal.
Yes, you're human. Yes, absolutely. But let me tell you something. When I was having children, about 20 years ago, my girls are 25 and 21 now. I just felt like, how dare I say I'm tired of my kids, or how dare I say, damn, this girl talks a lot. Draining the life out of me. And you just felt like you're supposed to be there prim and proper, and oh my God, it is so freeing to say, look, you need to go in your room. I don't know, I don't have all the answers. That was the most freeing thing I've ever said to my girls. It freed us both, I think, all three of us. I said, Mommy does not have all the answers. I don't know everything. I'm trying to figure it out now. So if I mess up, I'm dealing with what I'm dealing with. So that was the most freeing moment. Yes, because I was like, I can't figure it out. I don't even know what I'm doing. But I think I created a monster, because my youngest now would start to notice the adults around her and see them for who they were. They were trying to play like they knew it all, and she knew it.
She's like, you don't know anything. You don't know anything. Yeah. I mean, you just have to be open and honest with your kids. Like, my daughter, I say to she knows, she'll be like, Mom, I'm getting on your nerves, aren't I? And I'm like, yes, you are. And she's like, all right, I'm going to keep quiet for a little bit. And I'm like, yes. And, I encourage for her to say, Mom, you're getting on my nerves, because I know it works both ways. I'm not perfect, so there's going to be days where, yes, I probably do get on her nerves and I keep on whining at her and stuff. And, I want her to be able to say, Mom, you're annoying, or whatever, because I can't pretend to be perfect. I'm not. And I'm not going to pretend that, my child is absolutely perfect and that she doesn't get on my nerves, or that she takes 10 minutes to tell a story that could have been told in a minute, But, and it's okay. It's okay to, it's okay to think that your kids are perfect. It's okay to think that, actually they get on your nerves sometimes. It's fine to think all of these things that you're thinking. And I think the more we release mums and allow them to bring their whole selves and be honest, the more we'll figure out parenthood a little bit quicker.
Absolutely. And not hold our kids to a standard we can't even hold. I taught for a little bit in K through 12. So I called myself, becoming a substitute teacher just so that I could, watch my children grow and let them know that I'm not, not far away, and I'm really into what they're doing. And girl, please. By the time they got to high school, I guess sophomore year or so, I was like, Felicia, why are you doing this? You don't even like it. Visit some of the elementary schools and I'd come out with my hair on fire. I was like, this is not where I need to be.
This is not for me at all. Nope.
Boy, the things we think we is a good idea. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to hold you much longer. I do want to talk a little bit about, I want a sneak preview of what you talked about in your last conversation, because I am doing another podcast called Business Gets Personal, and we are talking about racism in the workplace, and I just wanted a little snippet. What you saying?
So I was talking about microaggressions and how it manifests itself. And I was saying, they will, when you have African Americans that have, or Black people in the UK in the workplace that have very traditional names, for example. So you might be called Olayinka Abayameng or something like that. And they'll say, you know what, I'm just going to call you O, but that's not my name. Yes. That's not my name. And if I ask you to pronounce Czechoslovakia, you will say that and it will roll off the tip of your tongue. So you're going to learn my name because that is my name and that is my identity. So you're going to learn my name and you're going to say it in full because it's not being shortened to O. You're going to say my name in full. And I was saying, a lot of the racism in the workplace takes the form of microaggressions. So not being able to pronounce your name properly or not making an effort to pronounce the name properly. Saying things like, oh, you've done so well for a Black woman to get to where you are. Or, are you the diversity hire? Or, where are you from? No, where are you really from? No, I'm American or I'm British. No, where are you really, really from? Oh, you mean Atlanta or you mean London? No, where are you really from? Or,
it's not funny, but it's just unbelievable because we've heard these things. We've heard it.
Or they go on holiday and they get a tan and they're like, Felicia, I'm as dark as you.
Oh, all the time.
Look at my tan. I'm as dark as you, Felicia. And it's like, you really thought about that. It came out of your mouth and you didn't see not one bit of problem with what you just said. Like, seriously?
I definitely heard that.
So, it was talking about that. And then basically I was saying that I really do feel that unconscious and conscious bias training is needed because a lot of the time when people are acting out microaggressions, they know what they're doing. It's not unconscious. Mm-hmm. They full well know what they're doing. So I felt that organizations needed to implement conscious and unconscious bias training, but also to enable employees, Black employees, to have access to counseling and counseling from therapists or counselors that look like them or can understand the issues that they may have. So if you're talking about microaggressions in your workplace and you're accessing counseling because of your experiences as a Black person within the workplace, is a white therapist going to understand or be able to relate to those feelings or how it's made you feel? So I think it's important for organizations to recognize that, and if they do have access to counseling or therapy services, they need to ensure that there are Black therapists. I think within the US it's more common. In the UK, definitely not that common to have access to a Black therapist. So that's something that I was saying organizations need to look at, but also allies in the workplace need to look at how they can position themselves to be allies and to speak up against racism, against microaggressions, against discrimination, because we can't do this by ourselves, because we get labeled as the aggressive Black woman or the angry Black woman, or you're always going on about race, or you've got a chip on your shoulder. And it's really important for allies to also pull up and recognize how they can join us in the fight for breaking down systematic racism, organizational racism, and just racism in general, existing in the workplace. Because, and the reason why I say organizational racism is because a lot of the time, organizational policies, managers, and senior leaders position themselves to allow microaggressions and subtle and covert racism to exist within organizations and workplaces. And until we start to break those down, nothing's going to change.
Karina, which is just pure and simple bullying.
Basically.
It's bullying. And
yeah.
it's staggering how much I know America has spent money on, this anti-bullying promotion. And yet we still have it in so many different pockets of our society. But in business, absolutely. I was just telling a colleague of mine, it's like you're supposed to be making this presentation and they may tell you a different date and time and then make you out to be the incompetent one. It's things like that. It's subtle. You can't say, oh, that's racism, but you know it exists. So I love the idea that you have to have allies within organizations. It used to be called HR. That's a whole nother story. That didn't work. That didn't work. But it used to be called HR. But it has to be a system within the organization that is absolutely for the employee and helping the employee matriculate through their day-to-day business. Yeah. It is such a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you for having me on, Felicia. Honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure. It really has.
Well, thank you. And tell all of the ladies I adore what they're doing and to just keep doing it. And we will absolutely be listening along. And I am looking forward to doing some kind of collaboration. I don't know what that is yet. We can just marinate on it, but it really feels right.
I'm a big believer on when the time's right, it will just manifest itself and we'll know straight away that that's what we need to be doing. So yeah.
Absolutely. Just to know that you've got a tribe behind you feels good.
Yes, definitely. And I've never been to Atlanta, Felicia, so when I come, I will be dialing you in. Sis, and let's link up. So as soon as things go back to normal and we can fly again, ATL is on one of the list of my places to visit. So
wonderful. And I'm a party girl at heart too. So I love socializing and eating well and having a nice drink and lots and lots of laughter. So
as long as there's food, laughter and drink, I am sold. I'm there.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much, Karina. I won't hold you much longer. I feel your spirit, so I love it. And it's been such a pleasure.
Honestly, thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to this being a long-lasting relationship and friendship. So thank you.
You are welcome, and I'll be in touch soon.
No worries. Thanks, Felicia.
Here we go!
Like talking to radio people because they just get it. We just get it. We have our own vernacular, we have our own language, we just get it. Because my business partner at the time, I was doing like webinars on how to get into radio and all these different things and trying to figure out who I am in this space, not having a radio station to go to, still trying to get into television, doing a little bit of television, trying to figure out where I was. Always cool with everybody. And, they try to pit us against each other, which I hate. I just believe that for those of us who are still breathing and living, we have to now truly live on purpose.
Be careful as you exit your VIP seats. They will be waiting for you next Wednesday when we talk to the Black Women in Radio Women in Charge panel discussion featuring Pat Prescott, Big Sue, First Lady Joyce Littell, Danielle Johnson, Angela Green, and me, Felicia Love. Make sure you subscribe to Black Women in Radio podcast on all social media and check out our website at www.blackwomeninradio.com.